Hello everyone, welcome to lecture 7 of CRN 635, and in this lecture we will be looking at designing your mobile applications specifically in the B4A IDE. Application design step by step. Some of the basic design principles include making your application visually appealing. Now, where possible, use graphics instead of words, and if you must use words, keep them brief. Like the concept says, hit the hammer on the head of the nail, keep it simple, keep it straightforward. Always offer your user a consistent experience. For example, when moving between screens, be faithful to the Android experience, for example, by swiping to navigate. Also, break your application in logical chunks and offer each on a separate screen. That is, organize your screens logically and let your users know where they are and how to get somewhere else. Title bar. The title bar in B4A uses the include title activity attribute. If the include title activity attribute is set to true, an activity will display a title bar below the status bar at the bottom of the screen. Now you should be able to directly rectify where the title bar is when you are designing an Android application in B4A using Visual Basic .NET programming language like you're doing in the classes at the moment. An action bar. You might want to have an action bar at the top of your app to let your user select the action to take. An illustration of the action bar is demonstrated in the presented slide. The STD action bar library supports tabs and drop-down lists on the action bar on devices running Android 4 or above. It also responds when the user clicks the action bar icon on the left of the action bar. Note that in Android 5, the button click event no longer fires when the user clicks the action bar icon. Instead, you should use activity_action bar home click event. Menu. A menu is an easy way of allowing the user to make selections in an easy way. Pardon me, a menu is an easy way to make your user, to allow your user to make selections. The menu is shown if the user presses the menu button, that is in the older devices, or selects the overflow symbol, the 3 vertical dots on the action bar. Mobile users rely on menus to find content and use features. Menus are an essential part of design, but not all menus are created equally. Too often, users face problems with menus. Part of the menus are confusing, difficult to manipulate, or simply hard to find. Now, we must always try to avoid such situations whereby the users end up facing difficulties while using the interface. Tab views. Tab host is a view that allows you to create a row of tabs which call out different pages. Tab host extras library is a user-generated extension of this view, which gives you more power over its appearance. Tabbed views also allow users to give them a sense of flexibility while using the application, while allowing more interaction to take place. At present, you can use the designer to add a tab host to a layout, but you must use code to add pages to it. A tab host is an activity object. It cannot be declared under sub-process globals. The simple way to do this is to create separate layouts for each page. Something similar is shown in the illustration in the presented slide. Tabs are one of the most used components of mobile user interfaces. They allow users to quickly move between a small number of equally important views. Sliding pages. Many users are used to apps which allow them to flip between activities by adding sliding pages horizontally, as well as tabs and drop-down lists on the action bar. The STD Action Bar library supports sliding pages on devices running Android 4 or above. Sliders are often the user interface control of choice for letting users select a value or range from a fixed set of options. However, in practice, sliders are difficult to manipulate, especially on touch interfaces. The level of control needed to meticulously operate a slider to an exact value is simply not realistic. Navigation drawer. A navigation drawer is a panel that slides in from the left edge of the screen and displays the app's main navigation options. The user can bring the navigation drawer onto the screen by swiping from the left edge of the screen or by touching the application icon on the action bar. At present, there is no navigation drawer which is backward compatible with early versions of Android, but you might consider using sliding pages, tab views, or simply a list view as a pop-up menu. Navigation drawer can also be used for easy exits, for allowing it to be used as a menu, and moreover allows additional interactivity between the user and the mobile application. Animating your app. Animating your app can make it more appealing for your users. There are several ways you can do this. Animating views by using different methods. Now, these methods can be in terms of Android 3 or later. Animating views by using the animation library, animating activities, and using a horizontal scroll view or scroll view with animated scrolling. Now, animating your app makes it easy for a user to navigate through the application very, very easily. Moreover, it builds a sense of excitement and a sense of ease of use when you are animating your application. Advertising. If you are going to include advertising in your app, you need to plan the screen layout to allow space for them. There are several B4E libraries which allow you to easily include advertisements in your application. Note that advertisements take up space on the device's display, so you need to consider the implications when designing the user interface. AdMob. Now, Google is perhaps the best known source of advertising. Use the AdMob library to display Google app ads in your applications. This has the benefit that you can also use Google Analytics to analyze the results. Note this library requires resources which are part of Google Play services. Other ways in which advertising could be used is by using AdEquity. AdEquity is another advertisement solution. Matomi is another provider of advertisements for mobile phones, and Tap4Tap offers a way to promote your app and a way for generating ad revenue, or perhaps to do both. When users tap on a link in your application and install an app advertised on the Tap Exchange, you can either earn credits or you can make money, or you can choose a mix of these options. Android themes. Themes are Android's mechanism for applying a consistent style to an app or activity. The style specifies the visual properties of the elements that make up your user interface, such as color, height, padding, and font. Now, themes can easily be downloaded off certain platforms, Android being the biggest platform of them all. Moreover, themes in B4A can also be downloaded through the use of libraries. Managing settings. Editing settings. Your app will almost certainly need to have settings, that is, user preference and details. You will need to allow the user to change them. There's an easy way to do this in B4A, that is to the use of preference activity library. Screens and layouts. With the large and increasing number of devices available on the market, all with different screen sizes and resolutions, it makes increasingly difficult to design an app that looks good on all of them. There is no universal rule to manage this problem. So it depends on what kind of project you are designing, what devices and screen sizes you are targeting, what to do to show on the different screens. Multiple activities. If you have complex coding for each page, then it would be better to have separate activity modules. You would normally create a separate layout for each activity. In order to call the second activity from the first, use start activity in brackets activity 2. The second activity automatically runs sub-activity create, which will load the relevant layout by calling out activity.layout layout2. In other words, multiple activities can also be referred to jumping screens in a mobile application. Returning from an activity. To return to the first activity, the second would typically save any data to return in a process global variable. Close the current activity with activity.finish. In activity 1, you could use sub-activity resume to check the value of the saved data. Overlays. Overlays are generally used in menus and layouts. So menu overlay, you might want to have a menu pop up over an activity. The simplest way to do this is to use a list view. Layout as overlay, you can also call a second layout from within the first activity using activity.layout, layout2. In this case, the second layout will be seen floating above the first. To hide parts of the first, the second must have opaque panels. That is alpha set to 255. This might be used to show a menu floating over the main layout. Detecting the display screen size is generally a challenge for many app developers. Now, how do we do that? We generally use layout values. Use layout values to get information about the screen, including the resolution. This object holds values related to the display. A layout defines the structure for a user interface in your app, such as in an activity. All elements in the layout are built using a hierarchy of view and view group objects. A view usually draws something the user can see and interact with. For example, look at the code in the illustration in the presented slide. To attain the display size, LV is equals to get device layout values. So this will print the following line to the log: 320 by 480. Scale is 1/160 DPI. So therefore, the display size is 320 by 480. Moreover, you can use layout values.scale to check the device type. This returns the scale where 1 is a screen with 160 DPI. For example, you can then use text size ratio to scale text on the screen. The code is displayed in the illustration. Detecting device orientation. You may need to know whether the screen is portrait or landscape. To do that, often we look at the width and the height of the screen. Allowed screen orientation. The screen orientation values which an app can support can be set to portrait only, landscape only, or both. These orientations can be defined either in 1, the project attributes, or 2, using the phone library. Adding views by code. Layouts are most commonly defined using the designer, but it is also possible to create and modify views directly in your activity code. Layouts are commonly defined using the designer, but it comes with advantages and disadvantages. The advantage is that you have full control of the view. The disadvantage is that you have to define almost everything. For example, you must initialize any view added in code as shown in the illustration. Finally, an app developer must be careful of dips when designing an interface for a mobile application. The abbreviation DIPS generally stands for Density Independent Pixel. To write code, you need to be aware of the density independent pixels. DIPs are a way of solving the uncertainty caused by the variety of screens resolutions available on different devices. DIPs are defined so that on all devices, 160 dip is equals to 1 inch. Thus, if you want to add a button to be 2 inches wide on any device, you must do 160 multiplied by 2. Therefore, the button width will be equals to 320 dip. Any number followed by the string dip will be converted. Note, no spaces are allowed between the number and the word dip. So this summarizes your notes, your lecture notes, onto how we go around designing a mobile application. Now, these things must be taken into consideration also when you're doing your major project. So I wish you all the very best. Thank you for listening, everyone.